you very, yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, I'm looking forward to this. I'm glad that it's so many people actually came here to come and see me and where I will discuss or talk about robotics and our supply chain basically. I will first start, before I start the presentation, I will talk a little bit about myself. I started working for robotics in 2010, so I've been working here for about 6.5 years now, and have been mainly working within production, planning, and also been involved within purchasing as well. I'm currently actually not the manager of the planning team. I'm the manager for the purchasing team, but it was actually due to my previous role that I'm invited to this event. And I was also one of the person who initiated the implementation of iPlanner within robotics. Yes. Yeah, the title of today's presentation is Future of Robotics and Improving Our Supply Chain. And the presentation is divided in 3 parts today. I will first start to talk about ABB Robotics. I will then talk about our implementation of iPlanner, and I will also give you my view of our future supply chain. So let's start with the first part, ABB Robotics. And I will actually start to show a movie about our newest member to the robot family, which is called Yumi. I think this is a fantastic product, and as you saw, this robot is called Yumi, which stands for You and Me. This is the first human-like robot that we are introducing on the market, and it's truly collaborative, which means that we can have a robot working together with an operator. Normally, you have a fence around the robot, but this one is truly collaborative, which is the fantastic part of this product. Yes. If we start with from the beginning of robotics, we were founded in 1974, which is about 42 years ago. And during that time, we only had one product. During these years, we have been developing new products, and currently we have 23 different robots that we are offering to the market. And we used to say that we are only in the beginning of the robot evolution. So we can see that a tremendous increase in the demand of this type of products within the manufacturing industry. And if we look on the different trends within the robot industries, we can see that we can basically see 3 different trends. We can see that the market is asking for digitization. They're also asking for collaboration, and they're also asking for simplification. And what I mean with that is that digitization is about connecting the robots with different systems. We are collecting data. We want to have the robots actually analyzing the status of the robot and the efficiency of the robot. And by using different sensors in the robot, we can collect that data, and then we can offer maintenance in advance, or we can even identify that we need to do some maintenance of the robot. We can also see that there's a demand for different apps. For example, the customer want to have, for example, an iPhone. They want to have an app where they can control the robot, they can monitor the robot, or even a tablet where they can program what the robot are supposed to do. The second one, as I mentioned, was the collaboration. And Yumi is the first collaborative robot that we are introducing on the market. And that is, so it's a strong focus there, because we can still see within a lot of manufacturing sites that we are still having a lot human people doing the assembly. And if we can combine the human person or the operator together with the robots, we are actually increasing the efficiency of the assembly process. So therefore we have a strong focus, and we see a demand of collaborative robots. And the last one is simplification. Everyone is asking for more simple ways of actually implementing robots in the manufacturing process. You can see, for example, with iPhones. It's easily to learn iPhones. You can now even see a 1-year-old child actually playing with an iPhone. And we think that why should it be that difficult to actually implement a robot in the assembly process? So, and we can see that demand as well. So we are looking into different possibilities to actually enhance or make it easier to implement the robots. And we have already now implemented 2 different solutions. We have something called Robot Studio. Robot Studio is something that the customer, they can build the whole robot cell in 3D. They can even program the robot. And then when they are done, we can just download that software, go down to robot, and then it's basically plug and play. Another thing that we actually introduced together with Yumi was learning by leading. And that means that we are now having systems that we can, if we take the arm for Yumi, for example, we can move the arm into different positions and use the gripper, and then in that way record what the Yumi is supposed to do. So this is a way to make it more easy to implement our robots in the assembly process. Yes. So if we look on the different products or systems that we are actually delivering to the market today, is we have integrated robot solutions, we have engineering of systems, and we also offering customer service. And when I say integrated robot solutions, we are talking about single systems that we are delivering to the large customers around the world. For example, BMW, we have Volvo, we have Scania, etc. So these robots are normally used within material handling, we have machine tending, we have welding, cutting, painting, etc. But then we are also offering solutions where we are actually building the whole robot cell or the robot line. And in that we are offering systems within press automation, body in white, paint processes, and powertrain. And the last one is customer service, where we're offering spare parts, field service, different trainings, etc. So what kind of products are we actually offering to our customers? As I said earlier, we have 23 different products in our segment. You can see that on the top row we have something called palletizers. They are normally used in picking and palletizing. Means that they are moving boxes from one corner to another. And then in the middle we have the industrial robots, and then the one on the last row is the painting robots. And we have different reach and we have different payloads. And the biggest robot that we are offering is the ABB 8700 that can handle up to 800 kilo weight. And then of course we have the smallest ones that can handle about 500 grams per arm. And then if we look on the different markets that we are working with today, I mentioned the automotive industry, and I would say that is still the biggest market for us and has been already since we actually started up the company during the 70s. The automotive industry is really the driver for the future factory, and I think they will still be one of the main customers for many years ahead. But we also see a big trend within the electronic industry, especially in the Asian markets, for tablets, phones, etc. And that was also one of the reasons why we invented and launched Yumi on the market. But then we also sell products towards food and beverage, pharmacy. But within food and beverage, we normally sell the picking and palletizing robots. They are not used that much in the assembly or in the manufacturing process that much. So it's more related to the logistics. So why do we think that people should actually invest in robots in their assembly process? Of course, we believe tremendous in robot automation, and we can see that we can reduce operational costs. We can make the assembly more efficient. We can also improve the quality of the product because the robot is always performing the task in the same way over and over again. And we can also see that we will improve the health and safety in the workplace. We can use robots for heavy lifting, for example. And then, of course, there are another benefits with implementing robots in the manufacturing process. So this was actually the first part. So I gave you a small glimpse of ABB Robotics and what type of products that we are offering. We actually have small prototypes outside where you actually get your coffee. So if you want to look at them, you can just walk out there after the presentation. So the next part. Yes, we have been implementing iPlanner for some time at Robotics, which has been a fantastic time, extremely interesting. And we can, even though we are not fully finished, we can see a lot of benefits with this type of systems. And I believe that we will probably use the system even more in the future. And during this part, I will explain about our implementation, the purpose of it, the background, some learnings from our side, and then I will go to the next part. So if we start with the background of the project, it's actually started for about 4 years ago. And I was participating at the workshop in Zurich where we actually were discussing sales and operation planning. And during that meeting, there were someone who actually told that world-class companies, they are using APS systems in sales and operation planning. During that time, I didn't know that much about these type of systems, but I got interested, so I started Google, tried to learn a little bit more about it. And then I actually saw that this type of system might actually improve our way of planning. So we were actually looking at a system that were both focusing on sales and operation planning, but also master planning and detailed planning from the beginning. But eventually, we actually only focused on master planning and detailed planning. But if we look on the current state that we had during that time, we could see inefficiencies in the process. We had several IT systems. We were using Excel. We were using our ERP system, SAP. And I would say the Excel sheets were getting more and more advanced, which is also a not very good sign, actually. And we were working differently for the planners. One planner were using their standards, and another planner were using their standards. So we had to find a way there where we actually were using the same system and we were using the same processes. For me, planning is a lot about visibility as well. If you have the visibility of the order backlog or the future, you can have a discussion with people around the organization. Because volumes will, at least for us, volumes will always go up and down. And it's very hard to actually make the volume very smooth for the production. So in that case, or in our case, it's very much about talking about the future volumes and how we are supposed to adapt to the changes of the volume. And then also we were using a lot of rough estimations in the planning, and it was based a lot in your experience. So you actually had to been working for a couple of years in order to have a good experience in this field and actually do a good planning. And then it was also difficult to actually highlight the risk in the different processes. We had difficulties to identify bottlenecks in our production. So we were looking at the current state, and we were also looking where do we actually want to go. And we could see that we need an IT system that actually supports us in the process. The IT system should not be the stopping point, as we thought it was. We wanted to have an IT system that gives us the good support. We want to have good visibility at all time. Normally, if we wanted to show something to the production lines or sales or purchasing, we had to download a lot of reports from SAP, and of course that took time. So we wanted to have all the information accessible and also in an easy way. No firefighting. We are doing a lot of firefighting today because we didn't actually have a good overview of where we had the bottlenecks in the process. And we also wanted to have accurate information when we were talking to other departments, because it was very much, we didn't really know, but we want to have a more scientific way to actually say that this is the bottleneck due to this resource or this component, etc. And we also wanted to have more fact-based decisions. And of course, we want to increase the productivity in the factory. I believe that if we do planning in a good way, we will definitely have better productivity in our assembly, and that'll also support our customers in a better way. And also try to increase the effectiveness in the cooperation with other departments by having better visibility, for example. So after about 2 years negotiations with different managers at different levels within ABB, we finally got the approval to start the project. So when we started the project, the target was actually to improve production and planning efficiency by implementing APS system. And we defined a project group. We had one project manager. We had 2 ABB employees that were allocated 50%. We had 3 ABB employees from other departments. So the employees for 50%, they were from planning. And then we had 3 other ones, one from purchasing, one from production engineering, and also one from sales. And then we also had one SAP expert from an external consulting company called TCS, and one integration expert as well that were responsible for the integration of our ERP system with the APS system. The project schedule was divided in 8 different parts. First we had the service description approved, and that was basically to write down all the requirements of the system. What type of system did we actually want to have? And then we had the design phase. We had iPlanner pilot approved, which means that we were supposed to have a pilot that the organization could approve before we actually went further in the implementation. And then we had a phase where we said that we were supposed to be able to create a production plan. And then we had a lot of test cases that had to be validated. And then we had something which says go live SAP releases. Within ABB and with our ERP system SAP, we actually have different time slots during the year where we can implement changes. And since iPlanner also required some changes in SAP, we had to define a product schedule that was actually following the implementation phases for SAP. And then we had the go live and also finally hand over to the operations. And we are not fully finished with the project yet, but I would say we are somewhere between go live and hand over to operations. We are using the system actually in daily business, but not fully. But the plan is to be finished during the end of this year. And if we look on the different fields that we were trying to improve our process, was that we were focusing on the order handling part and also the detail planning part. And when I say the first one, the order handling part, is that we were supposed to get support in when we are talking about new orders, changed orders, large order inquiries, or delivery improvements, for example. So how the process looks like is that we have our ERP system, SAP. SAP has all the information about sales orders, so all the information is stored there. So we register an order in SAP, and that information is then transferred to iPlanner. And the information that we send from SAP to iPlanner is delivery date of the sales order. We also have like the BOM, routings, and a lot of other data that is sent to iPlanner. When iPlanner receives the information, we reshuffle the order backlog, and then we determine a delivery date for that sales order. But then we have also said that if iPlanner, for example, delays an order too much, we want the order to be stuck. So we can evaluate the result of what was the reason why it actually pushed the order forward 4 months, for example. So we have defined a threshold. So iPlanner checks against that threshold, and if it's above, then it will get stuck, and the planner needs to do some investigations when it comes to capacity or material availability. But if we are below that threshold, iPlanner will send back the delivery date automatically back to SAP, and we can also confirm the order to our customers. In the long run, we hope that we can actually have a full automatic system from placing an order to delivering a delivery date to our customers. The second part is detail planning, and that is more about scheduling of orders to the production. As I said, we were using a lot of different tools, Excel, and the scheduling was done with a lot of assumptions and based on a lot of experience. So we wanted to set up a system that makes sure that the scheduling is done in the same way all over and over again. So what we do with iPlanner is that we have the order backlog, we send it into iPlanner, we do the reshuffling, and then we have defined a so-called filter function where we have listed different constraints or different rules. And based on these rules, we can generate a sequence of orders that we can release to the production or a specific production line. But then we will also use the system to actually overview what is happening in the production flow. For example, if we can see any delays, do we have any shortages of components, just to make it easier for the planners to retrieve the information and react faster to try to mitigate all the different problems that we have in the production process. Yes. And I will give you a couple of examples of reports and dashboards that we have been implementing during the projects. We have actually listed 20 different reports. And this is just one example. I'm not sure if you see the text here, but this actually shows the sales orders that we have in the system. We are a factory that produce, we don't produce to stock, so we assemble it to order. So we only produce the sales orders that we are receiving from our front-end customers. So this one actually shows the sales order, the customer, the requested delivery date, and also the planned delivery date based on the constraints that iPlanner can identify. And then you see the red and the green part, and that actually indicates if the order will be delayed or not to the customer. So in these cases, the planner should react on the red ones and need to investigate if do we have a material shortage, or do we have any constraints for a certain work center or workstation in the factory. And the last part is actually where iPlanner identifies what component that is creating this shortage. So in this case, the planner take this component, goes to the purchasing team and asks, can we do something about it? Just to highlight information a little bit more advanced than we were used to be. Another example is this dashboard. As I said, I think that a lot of the planning is about visibility and showing the future volumes to different areas in the company. And this one shows the graph on the top is the quantity that we are supposed to deliver each week. The bottom part is showing the number of hours required to deliver that volume. And we can also filter on different attributes. For example, if we want to see how many robots that has a certain option, for example. We can also view on different variants, because the different variants actually have different constraints in the production. So in that case, we need to be able to show that to the line manager so they can prepare for the future, basically. And then the last example I have here is the order sequence report. So this actually, as I said, we have a filter mix solution in iPlanner where we create the mix. So this one actually shows the sequence. So the line manager should produce the orders from the top to the bottom. Yes, of course we have done some learnings as well, and some of them is probably familiar if you saw the learnings that the person from Absolute mentioned. And we definitely think that you should be an expert of your ERP system. Integrations are very complex, and you should make sure that you have time to evaluate the result. And you should also make sure that you get control of the whole integration flow, all the way from your ERP system into different systems into iPlanner, because otherwise it's very difficult to actually validate the information. And in the beginning we were only looking on the end parts, so it was difficult to understand where it actually got wrong. So we need to make sure that we have the control of the whole integration flow. And then of course the master data is also one important part. Our ERP system has a lot of information that we want to send into iPlanner. We need to make sure that the master data that the quality of the master data is good. So therefore we think that we should definitely create this separate project just to focus on the master data of your ERP system. And you should make sure that you have full-time resources that can work with the product. Because we had resources that were working 50% with operations and 50% with the product. And that was quite difficult to actually prioritize the product in some times. If it was burning in the factory, of course, we had to focus on that one first. Yes, and then of course we can see some benefits as well. As I said, we are not fully finished with the product, but we can still see some benefits already now. We have full automated process steps within planning, at least some part. We will be able to plan higher volumes with the same amount of people. And of course, the visibility is fantastic. We are receiving the information for free every day, easily accessible. And it will also improve the speed of resolution. And we will also be able to give our customers and also other departments more accurate answers. And we will actually get excellent control of our master data. Because iPlanner really shows where we have the wrong information. So that is really, really good. Because then we can work on the master data, which we should have done even before. But now we really need to work with them, so it gives a good overview. And of course, we will improve the cooperation. It's easy to show the information to different departments, etc., within robotics. And I truly believe that we will have world-class customer service in a couple of years when we have been using this type of system. That was a little bit about our implementation of iPlanner. And the last part is I will give you some information about my view of the future supply chain. And if you look on robotics, I will say, this is my view, so I'm not sure what our top management is thinking, but this is my view and how I think that robotics will evolve. I definitely think that we will have full automated order flow. Why should it be that difficult to order a robot? It should be that as easy as ordering clothes on the internet or a phone from internet or something like that. The customer should be able to order something via internet and then automatically get a confirmation back. I think we will see higher degree of integrations. This is very much linked to the transparency of information as well. And with that, what I mean with integration is that not only between different systems, I think we will be more integrated with our customers, with our suppliers as well, because we need that in order to be flexible, in order to be able to handle the increase in volume that we see within the robot industry. For example, the forecast, we need to share the forecast with us. The customer needs to share it with us. We need to share it with our suppliers. And of course, we want to have a confirmation from the suppliers that they will be able to handle the future volume that is coming. And then we will, and this is something that we have already started with, and that is VMI. VMI stands for Vendor Managed Inventory. And different hub solutions. So we have started up a VMI and the hub solution at Arlanda. So basically the supplier is sending components to the VMI hub, and we are and it's still owned by the supplier. So we are purchasing components from the VMI hub. So instead of having, for example, 90 days of lead time between us and the supplier, we can have 2 days lead time. But then of course, if the volume is increased a lot, then of course we will have the same replenishment time for the component. But it will definitely increase the flexibility in our organization. I also think that we will be even more globalized, both within planning, but also within purchasing. Because we have 3 factories today. We have 1 factory in Sweden, we have 1 factory in China, and we are starting up a factory in the US. And the volumes are increasing in all the different markets that we see. And in some cases, China might have constraints. Sweden might have constraints, so we need to be able to actually transfer volume more easily between the different factories in order to support the increase in volume, but also to support the flexibility or the flexibility requirements that the customer is asking for. Today we have about between 4 and 12 weeks lead time. And some customers is actually asking for 100 robots within 4 weeks. How can we handle that when we have make to order? We need to find a different solution for that. And then of course, we will definitely see large amount of robot automation within our own factories as well. Our goal is of course, or I think my goal should be that we should have robots producing robots. And we will see that because a lot of these new products that we are launching, one of the requirements is actually that these robots are supposed to be produced with robots. So we are already going towards that direction. This was the last slide I had. So I've given you a view about ABB, our implementation of iPlanner, and also a little bit of my view of our future supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Before I ask a question, is there anyone in the audience who has a question? Nope. I'm just thinking, looking at the last point, when of course, coming from ABB Robotics, you see that robot automation is going to increase and robots will be producing robots. And I know in all industries, there's of course a fear, maybe a legit fear, that robotics and AI will start taking over human resources and so forth. How do you as a representative for ABB view that? Is it legit to have that fear, or will the human resources be reorganized to other things?
We will always need operators to control the robots and monitor the progress of the robots. But of course, if we have 4 people at the station today, then we might have 1 robot and 1 person instead. So of course, we might see a decrease in the number of people working in the manufacturing process. But of course, they will probably be moved to different parts of the organization And we will definitely need people to monitor the progress of the robot automation or the progress of the robot.
So there will be new opportunities because people actually have to re-educate themselves in a bit to
And we can
acquire.
also see, as I said, we are focusing a lot about this collaboration type of robots. And within a lot of industries, it's quite difficult to implement robots in the assembly. So in that case, we might have robots that are doing some parts, and then we have a human person actually doing for example, the last part of the assembly because it's too difficult to implement with a robot.
And you talked about your future perspectives on supply chain. What about future perspectives of robots and robotics? I mean, what comes after you, me? How far can we go? In the coming 5 years, what do you foresee as the trends? What will it be then?
It's a good question, but I think that for the coming 5 years, I think the main focus for us will actually be to make it easier to implement our robots, to make sure everyone can implement a robot in their factory. And it should also be cheap, because there's such a high pressure on the cost. So it should be cheap to actually implement a robot in the assembly, and it shouldn't take 5 months to build up a whole robot cell. It should take 1 day, for example. So we truly need to make it easier to implement our robots in the assembly process.
And looking, I mean, there are some industries that, of course, are a natural force for robotics. But do you see other industries or other areas where you can see that robotics will sort of have an impact further on? Maybe as a service?
Yeah, there's, as you see, we have the automotive industry, and they will probably be very big for the coming years as well. Scania actually launched a new factory recently, which is quite cool. So if you search for Scania's future factory, then you will find it on YouTube. But another area where we're actually focusing more on is this palletizing segment within logistics, or all these forwarders. They are moving boxes from one place to another. So that's another segment that we believe that actually will increase in the future. And they are currently not using that many robots, actually.
And last but not least, do you think, I mean, we already have a robot who has, when we look at chess, do you think that there will become robots who will become smarter than humans? Will we outsmart ourselves?
Don't know.
Okay, it's not in the core for
yeah,
robotics.
maybe.
Yeah,
Why
hopefully
not? I think it will take a lot of years, but I think that some robots is probably smarter than humans within different segments.
Exactly, as long as we have the control.
Yes, but it will be pretty cool when we have robots building robots.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you very much.